Beryl is getting better organized and headed towards Texas. Good afternoon, I'm Mike Nasa with this Sunday afternoon video update on the tropics. Still watching Tropical Storm Beryl there in the western Gulf of Mexico, looking much better defined than it did yesterday, and it's starting to get that classic shape again, and it looks like it will become a hurricane before making landfall very early on Monday morning. Here's the latest as of 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern on Tropical Storm Beryl from the National Hurricane Center. It was at 25.9 north, 95.1 west. Winds were 65 miles per hour, so it's a strong tropical storm now, and that pressure has been getting a little lower than it was, down to 992 millibars, and it should continue to intensify slowly and then a little more quickly as it's coming ashore sometime Monday morning. It's moving northwest at 10 miles per hour, so that's probably some of the slowest motion we've ever seen out of Beryl, which would give it a little more time over water to organize and strengthen. We do have a hurricane warning from Baffin Bay all the way to the north towards areas there of St. Louis Pass. And I should note we have a hurricane watch from St. Louis Pass over to Galveston Island. So again, everywhere from this whole mid-Texas to upper Texas coastline is either under the hurricane warning or a hurricane watch, and it looks like hurricane conditions will develop throughout the afternoon tonight and then overnight into tomorrow as the hurricane eventually makes its landfall. Now, the earliest arrival of winds are going to be when you really can't go out and do any more preparing. So it looks like sometime around 8 o'clock tonight would be the earliest arrival to about 2 a.m. Monday morning. So again, we're talking about 8, 10, 11 o'clock tonight when those tropical storm force winds finally begin to make their way onshore. And that's going to cause problems as far as trying to do any last minute preparations. So get those done now. There's the latest visible satellite imagery, and again, the center is still a little disorganized. It's not extremely well defined, but there is an eye closing off there that's probably about 30 to 40 miles across. So that's much larger than we were used to with Beryl back down in the Caribbean. But as it closes that eye off, it will eventually organize and structure itself with an eye wall and get better organized and strengthened. And that's why it looks like it'll become a Category 1 hurricane, potentially a Category 2 if it strengthens more rapidly as it comes ashore somewhere there in areas in the general vicinity of Matagorda Island. But again, everybody in that hurricane warning area needs to be ready for a direct hit and landfall. As far as the upper level conditions, much better defined over the top of it than they were yesterday, and that's why the tropical storm's fanning out. Look at that wind shear tendencies way down over the top of it, just as the models predicted that it would deal with wind shear and then eventually get into a much better environment here in the western Gulf of Mexico. Here's the radar from Mark Niesenbaum's weather page, and again, I'm not seeing a well-defined eye wall yet, but it's organizing, and once it forms one and closes it off, it'll be a hurricane, and then we'll see a faster rate of deepening as it heads there towards Port Lavaca and areas to the north and east. So again, it could become a hurricane of 80, 90, even up to 100 miles per hour as it makes landfall, and a strengthening hurricane upon landfall is worse than one that's steady or weakening because those winds are intensifying as it comes ashore and bursting down to the surface. Right now, it almost looks like a slow northwest, almost north-northwest motion, as it is still about 195 miles southeast of Corpus Christi as of 1 o'clock Eastern Time. The storm surge is going to be a problem. We're going to see water rises not so much to the south, but especially north and east, anywhere from 3 to 5 or 4 to 6 feet, all the way from Baffin Bay over to Sabine Pass. So stay out of the water, watch for the dangerous swells on top of that, and if the storm makes landfall, again, to the right of the center is where you'll have the onshore flow. So if it made landfall near St. Louis Pass, Galveston Bay would be in the right front quadrant. If it makes landfall down here towards Baffin Bay, Corpus would be in the right front quadrant. Matagorda Island, Matagorda Bay would be in the right front. So you kind of get the idea there, although it looks like landfall will be the mid-Texas coast, not so much down towards Baffin Bay and Corpus. But again, the hurricane force winds will extend outward around that eye, and so we'll have onshore flow around a larger area. Rainfall, again, that's going to be a factor, 6 to 8 inches, especially from Corpus to Houston, spreading inland, and that will spread the flood risk inland with a moderate chance of flooding anywhere from San Antonio to Houston to Waco to Shreveport, and then decreasing, but still a slight risk all the way in to areas there of the Mississippi River region in Missouri and Illinois. You guys here are going to get in to flood threat potential. So the impacts that we're dealing with Beryl, now this is as of Sunday afternoon. Number one, it is forecast to strike the Texas coast as a hurricane early Monday morning. Now that could mean in the wee hours of the morning, that could mean a little bit later on, early to mid-morning, but sometime after midnight tonight, early Monday, it will make landfall. Storm surge anywhere from 3 to 6 feet, especially near and east of the center, to say nothing of those gusty winds, crashing waves, and heavy rainfall. Again, there it is on the satellite. I'm impressed. I mean, yesterday we had an exposed center, dry air. This is trying to coil up. Beryl is not done yet, as it's on final approach to its final destination, which is the Texas coastline there. I'm Mike Naso with continuing coverage. I'll be back as the hurricane, not a hurricane yet, as it strengthens into a hurricane again and heads towards Texas landfall. I will be back with more coverage. Stay tuned, and if you're along the Texas coast in that hurricane warning area, get everything done now because time's about to run out.